All right, how is everybody doing this morning? Everybody good? Okay. You know, I have been to Lafayette lots of times, and Lafayette has never come across as shy and as quiet as y'all are coming across this morning. Is everybody good? Yeah. All right. What better place to be? I walked off the airport yesterday, and I was greeted with this huge sign that said, Lafayette, the greatest city in America. Yes? Right? And then I Googled it, and y'all are. I mean, like for years, y'all have been named the greatest city in America, so congratulations. Yes? Okay, yeah, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. All right. Somebody asked me if I needed coffee, and I said, oh my gosh, me on coffee is dangerous. No, I don't need coffee. But what this session is going to be for the next hour-ish is going to be interactive, right? So I'm really going to need for you to put down whatever concerns that you have. Forget about what you're doing this weekend. Forget about the tweets and the Twitters and all of those kinds of things. And just give me your focus for 60 minutes. But not only do I need your focus, right? I'm really going to need for you to do some of these exercises. Yes. 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 Yes, you will. Yes, yes. Right, because why else am I here? Right. I'm not just here to yell and scream and get you pumped up and get you excited, because you're already that. I'm not just here to tell you how to do whatever it is you're doing better, because you already know how to do that, right? Right? So I'm here to share some things with you, and in order to share, you have to participate. Yes? All right, fantastic. I got it. You know, I see my gunners. I said, my gunners are like, yes, yes. And the people in the back is like, is she done? Is she done? All right, so we're going to get started. One thing that I do want to say, oh, here we go. Here's a quick introduction. Curtis did an amazing job. I like to try to keep it short. I like to try to keep it simple. I want you to learn who I am, and I want to learn who you are through our personal exchanges, right? Nobody's interested in reading 55 pages of anything about anybody. So I am going to do an even shorter introduction of myself. And here we go. Surprise, surprise, I'm African American, if you didn't know. I'm female. My name is Stephanie Ledesma, not Dean Ledesma, although that is new and that is so cool. We can talk about that. That is so cool. I am a daughter. I am the daughter of Ruby and Willard Smith. My mom was born in 1927. My dad was born in 1926. My mom grew up just down the street in Mobile, Alabama, right? She was one of 11. My dad served in 3 wars. So that should tell you a little bit about me. Right? I have this idea that perfection is attainable. I have this idea that if I can't be perfect, I will accept excellence. And I have an idea that I belong to a team who believes the same things that I believe, and that we're in this room for the same reason, trying to accomplish that excellence in our service to others, right? I'm the mother of 2 absolutely amazing children, and they're amazing because I have nothing to do with it, right? Because I always had this vision that I would be on Oprah, and I had ruined my children's lives. Thank God Oprah went off TV. But now she's not. Now she's back. So I don't know. I may eventually be on Oprah with my children telling me how much I ruined their lives. I'm an aunt. I'm a niece. I'm a cousin, right? I share some of these titles with all of you, right? To some people, I am a mentee. I love my mentors. I praise them. I thank them. I say God is good because but for them, I would not be here. To some people, I serve as a mentor. So we all wear various hats. And we're going to talk about those hats just shortly. We know that I'm an advocate. We know that I'm an attorney. We've already talked about the CWLS. And I also noticed in the program that there's other CWLSs. Anybody in the room who's a CWLS? Yes, there's a few of us, right? Good morning to you. Good to see you. All right, and law school professor, associate dean, that's who I am. Let's talk about why I'm here. Well, One of the reasons I'm here is because I was invited, right? Got to start with an invitation. But the reason that I'm really here is I want to share 10 real simple exercises. And it's only 10. Some of these exercises you probably do already. You just don't realize that you are doing them, right? Why do I want to share these 10 exercises with you? Because these exercises are best practices, right? Best practices on how we can serve the people that we serve better. Why are those best practices important in this arena at this conference today? Because the child welfare system is important. Yes? Why is the child welfare system important? Because hundreds of thousands of children are touched by this system. They might not become part of this system, but you can rest assured they are touched by this system. And why is that important? Because we owe a duty to protect our children, don't we? Do we? Right? All right, do we do this because we have nothing better to do? If so, I want to buy you a drink. And let's talk about what that other thing is, right? But we do this because we have a duty to protect our children. And why is that important? Because it's our responsibility to to speak for those who have no voice, is it not? Right? Our children are our legacy, are they not? Our children are our future, are they not? Right? I told you a little bit about my mom. My mom was old school. She was old school before they called it old school, right? And my mom was everybody's mom. That's how I learned parenting. Everybody was her baby. Everybody was her darling. And so I've kind of assumed that characteristic of my mother. Every child is my child. I'm responsible for all of them. And I know that I share that with some of you, right? I was at my daughter's volleyball game a couple of nights ago, and they were chanting, and yeah, 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 yeah. It was amazing. It was great. Yeah. And there were some little girls, and some music came on, and they were doing the latest dance, and I was like, baby, don't do that. No, sweetheart, that doesn't look good on you, right? And I felt very comfortable saying that. They may not have felt comfortable receiving that. Right? But once they realized I was Kalani's mom, they're like, oh yeah, she's everybody's mom. Right, right? And so with that being said, that's exercise number 1. How easy is this? This is so easy. Exercise number 1, you ready? Your turn. Here we go. What I would like for each and every one of you to do is take a breath. Huge one, right? Put down your phones. Get off of YouTube, unless you're looking at me. No, I'm just teasing. Get off of YouTube and just have a second of silence. Ask yourself, why do you do what you do? This is an opportunity to go deeper, to dig down soul deep. Why are you a CASA volunteer? Why are you an attorney for children? Why are you an attorney who represents the agency? Why are you a judicial officer on the bench? Have you answered that question? Now that you've answered why you do what you do, why is it important? You could have chosen to be a million other things. Why did you choose this? This is mindful reflection. Because sometimes we have to remember why we do what we do. If you say, I didn't choose it, it chose me, I'm one of those. It chose me. I was going to be a microsurgeon. I got the medical school and the law school mixed up. No, it's a lot more complicated than that. But if you're one of those people that says, well, it chose me, why did you answer the call? Why do you feel that you are uniquely qualified to do the things that you do? These are not rhetorical questions. These are questions that you should ask yourself every morning before you leave your house. Every day before you walk into your office. Every moment before you meet a new client. Every instance before you walk into someone's house to investigate. Every time you step before a judge and begin to open your mouth to speak. What do you have to offer? Right? And just go down those steps. To some people who are familiar with liberating structures, this is called the 9 whys. Right? For those of us who have learned the importance of critical thinking, this is an exercise in critical thinking. For those of us who partake in the idea of mindfulness, this is an exercise in mindfulness. For those of us who are just tired and who feel that we fight a losing battle on a daily basis, and who have become discouraged, and whose life has become less hopeful, and whose drive has become a little bit slower. This is for you. This is to help remind you of why you do what you do. Exercise 1, remembering why you do what you do. What do? Let's get to the next welcome. Together we can. 15 years. Yes? Can I get a round of applause? Together we can. 15 years. Has anybody been to all 15? Yes! Yes! Can we give them a hand? Right? How simple but profound is Together We Can. Simple yet profound. Together we can. Together we will. Together, y'all know what it is. We must. What must we do? We must keep pushing. What must we do? We must make a difference, a positive difference, yes? What must we do? Y'all thought I was joking when I said this was interactive. What must we do? Please don't, oh my gosh. I remember a trip. I was born and raised in Dallas, and we would load the car, thermos of coffee, sandwiches in the cooler, right? Leave before day in the morning, drive to Mobile, Alabama, and every once in a while, right, and that was the day when 6 people fit in the car easily, and all of the luggage fit in the trunk, right? And every once in a while, my cousin, who was a couple of years older than me, would go with us. And my mom was a very serious woman. And every once in a while, she would say, "Don't make me stop this car." Right? And those were the days where all it took was a look. And if they dare had to say, "Don't let me," right? So I was just getting ready to say, "Don't let me take this microphone down and come and walk around in the audience." Because I will do that, right? But what we must do is keep pushing. What we must do is we must make a positive change. What else must we do? We must succeed. What else must we do? How beautiful is that? Support each other, even if we're on opposite sides. I didn't make a lot of friends when I was in practice. I actually had, Casa, I love you. I actually had a CASA volunteer tell me one time, you don't play well with others. And I guess I really needed therapy because I took that to be a compliment. Just sharing myself with you, Right? What must we do? We must protect our children. Is there anybody in this room who thinks that our children are not worthy of protection? I didn't think so. What else must we do? I'm clicking faster than my clicker's moving. We must protect our humanness. Do you know what I mean by humanness? We have a lot more in common with each other than we have that's different. And we are so easily tricked because our eyes see what's different. And it's so easy to run with those differences. But we're smarter than that, right? We're more diligent than that, right? We all have blood running through our veins. It's red, irregardless of what sports team you represent. We all need oxygen to breathe. At some point in our lives, we all needed a helping hand. We would not be where we are today had there not been someone there to guide us. Had there not been someone who said, you have more attitude than you have wisdom. That was a comment made to me very early in my practice. But you are teachable, right? We all want to have a sense of importance and value and meaning. All of us. All of us. And whether we admit it openly, we all can use a little kindness and a little compassion, right? We must protect our humanness. The other thing that we must protect is our culture. I've clicked it 3 times and none of my cultures are coming up. There we go. Culture. All of them. Right? When I introduced myself and said I'm a mother, a daughter, a cousin, I'm not a sister, but I'm a mother, a daughter, a cousin, I missed some of them. But I said I share some of these titles with all of you. I meant that genuinely. I share culture with some of you. And some of you with whom I share culture, some of those things I don't share, right? But just because I don't share them does not mean that they're any less important than my very own. Just because I don't agree with them does not mean that they're any less valuable or valid than my own. We in this room are the gatekeepers. We, the social workers, the volunteers, the judges, the lawyers, the legislators, the foster parents, the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, the mentors, the aunts, the uncles, the grandmothers, grandfathers, we are the people who protect others. Are we not? Are we not those people? No matter what our titles are, our roles are very similar. Where is the worst place to have a heart attack? In the hospital. Alone by yourself at home. Anybody else? Worst place to have a heart attack? Where? While you're driving. I thought you said at Mardi Gras. The worst place to have a heart attack is in a crowd of people. In a crowd of people. Not in this room, because it doesn't apply to the people in this room. But the reason that the worst place to have a heart attack is in a crowd of people is why? Because everybody's looking to somebody else to do something. Everybody has an expectation that somebody's getting ready to do something. In this day and age, I'm sure somebody's videotaping it. But somebody's going to start CPR. Somebody's going to call 911. Somebody's going to start something, right? The improvement of the child welfare system is our responsibility, yours and mine. Anybody feel that the child welfare system is great? I may have missed a hand. Y'all are really going to make me come down, but that's okay. I'll come down. I'm going to come meet you where you are. Anybody have the idea that the child welfare system doesn't need any improvement? Anybody? Right? Anybody been in court within the last couple of weeks? The judge says, yes, me. Was anybody in the court with the judge? Right? Was anybody in court anytime recently and you looked at yourself and you said, is this really happening? Because I was going to say, maybe it's just Texas and maybe it's just me. Right? Has anybody been in a family team meeting? Y'all do family team meetings? Yeah? Right? Anybody been in a family team meeting and said, somebody pinch me, this is not real? Anybody? Right? If you have experienced those experiences, what did you do? Somebody said I spoke out. Anybody else? Was there only one person who spoke out? I need to hire you. Right? It is up to us to be the change. Yes? Yes. It is up to us to make a difference. We've already talked about protecting our children. Everybody said yes. We've already talked about protecting our humanists. Everybody said yes. We've already talked about protecting our culture. Everybody said yes. So do it. Do it. Right? I am not going to paraphrase Kofi Annan because I wouldn't do it justice. So I'm going to apologize because I don't want to turn my back to you, but I'm going to have to so I don't fall down. People of different religions and cultures live side by side in almost every part of the world. Most of us have overlapping identities which unite us with very different groups. We can love what we are without hating what we are not. We can thrive in our own tradition even as we learn from others and come to respect their teachings. Do you believe that you can love who and what you are without hating who and what you are not? Anybody in this room? Right? Yes. From a logical, rational perspective, that's one of those duh kind of questions, right? Of course I can. Let me ask you this question. I'm going to ask you to keep the answer to yourself. Do you do it regularly? Do you regularly love who you are without finding fault with something different than who you are? Mindful reflection, opportunity to be honest with yourself. Exercise number 2. Who are you? Who are you? What do you believe about races? Is there any difference? One race better than the other? The politically correct answer is no. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you to dig deep and be honest. What do you believe about gender? If you had an opportunity to come back to this earth, would you come back to this earth in the same gender that you're currently in? For a long time, I said, no, I'm not going to tell you what I was going to come back as. I might not get invited back. Right? I can now say yes. Right? But for a long time, yeah, no. Right? What do you think about poverty? Why are people poor? Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. What do you think about mental illness? Somebody say, get it treated. No. Yeah, no. Yes, it does. You didn't say that. You said it exists. It does, right? But did anybody pop into their head, get it treated? My dad was born in the 1920s, lived through 3 wars. He's 92 years old. I love him. I love him. Right? But he was a serious man. And if he said, you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you don't have time to have no mental illness. I'm just sharing. Because that was his reality. That was his culture. Right? There was no depression. Right? You better stop feeling sorry for yourself. Right? I have a bachelor's degree in biology and chemistry, a master's degree in gerontology, a doctorate degree in jurisprudence. That's the law degree. I'm really not a doctor. And my mom said, girl, what you waiting on? Where's the 4th one? And I was like, so I'm not asking you these questions to judge you. I'm asking you these questions so that you start to realize who you are. We're talking about implicit bias, are we not? Implicit? Maybe I don't know that I hold that belief. Maybe I don't know that I hold that idea. Maybe I didn't realize that that was the filter by which I was making my decisions. I never thought about it. What do you think about a mom who has several children with multiple dads? Y'all are the most non-judgmental people I've ever met in my life. Hell, I'm moving to Lafayette. Can I hang out with somebody for a little while until I can get my own place? Right? So who are you? Who are you? What do you think about people who didn't get a high school education, high school dropouts? What do you think about people who had children as teenagers? What do you think about people who don't go to work and earn a living every day? And the child welfare system that I work in, those were generally my clients. right? So once you've decided who you are, my question becomes, is this who you want to be? Because if not, it's time for a transformation. Has anybody ever taken the Harvard IAT? Yes, 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 yes. Did you take the one on gender? Did you take the one on race? Yes, yes. Did you learn anything about yourself? When we are done today, I invite all of you to Google Harvard IAT, implicit association test. Just Google it, not now. Just Google it. Take it. You might learn something about yourself that you weren't aware of. Just take it. Live on the wild side. Right? Take the one on gender, there's actually 2, and take the one on race. There's actually 10 different tests. See what you learn about yourself. And once you learn some things about you, has anybody ever said something to you like, girl, you're so negative? And you're like, no, I'm not. Or has anybody ever said to you, man, you always you always judge people. Oh man, that's crazy. No, I don't. Find out who you are. Once you've found out who you are, ask yourself, do you like it? Or is it time for transformation? Right? And this is the point that I come in this presentation where I stand before you naked. Ooh, everybody looked up. No, I'm not. I'm really not naked. Well, I mean, no, I stand before you and I say to you, I have no magical fixes. I have no wisdom from on high. I have no secret formula on how to eradicate implicit bias. I have none. You're like, well, why the heck are you here? All I have is a humble, simple invitation. If you want to transform. If you want to provide better service to your people, whomever your people are. If you want to be a better caseworker, if you want to be a better investigator, if you want to be a better lawyer, if you want to be a better volunteer, if you want to be a better parent, if you want to be a better judge, it's just a simple invitation. It's up to you to RSVP. But here it is. See things differently. Be willing to step outside the protective armor of your ethnocentrism. What is it? What? Ethnocentrism. Your way is the only way. Your way is the right way. You ought to see things the way that I do, and then everything would be fine. Be willing to put that aside and just see things differently. This is deep. This is deep. This is deep. And you got to be willing to go, and you got to be brave. Because once you get deep, it gets scary. If I am charitable in my judgment, if I have tried to help the best that I can, if I have celebrated, if I have grieved, if I have rejoiced, I must say that it's all done involuntarily. If I had paused, I dare say that I would have done nothing. But I seek no credit and I want no praise. That is just my humanness. That is just my humanness. Implicit bias. You cannot address it without addressing culture. And culture is elusive. It is as elusive as the air that we breathe. Right? It challenges us to be our very best, and at the same time, it antagonizes us to be our absolute worst. It liberates us, but at the same time, it enslaves us. It helps us identify with others, while at the same time, it separates us. But it is as real as the chair that you're sitting in. Culture. This is test number 3. I can't wait to get to it. Exercise 3. You ready? This is a test of whether or not you can truly love who you are without disliking who you are not. You walk into a courtroom and you see a young lady with a nose ring. Is she right or is she wrong? Y'all are like, she ain't tricking me. Okay. I got one. You ready? I got one. You're at a football game. Y'all know it's coming. And they begin to play the national anthem. Is it right or is it wrong? Ooh, it's about to get good. It's about to get good. The Texans are actually talking to Kaepernick. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I saw that on the news the other day. Anybody feeling uncomfortable yet? No? No? Then I'm moving. This is the most wonderful place. This is the greatest city in America, right? You're walking down the street and you see somebody holding a sign that says Black Lives Matter. What is your initial, immediate response? Be honest. Your mother is watching. All lives matter. What did you just do? You just dismissed the person who's holding that sign. Did you see it? Did you see it? Right? Why did you just dismiss the person who's holding that sign?
Because the person who's holding that sign, he's holding it because it's important to him or her.
Right. Because pro-black doesn't mean anti-white. We are so easily tricked by our eyes that we focus on what's different, and somehow the good works that have been created in advance for us to do get overlooked and are overshadowed by this distraction of you're different than me. How dare you kneel when they're singing the national anthem? How dare you? How dare you protest? You better be glad that whatever comes after, right? Culture. Culture. Number 4, we're getting through them. I have a hypo. I have a hypo. I have a hypo. Don't you love hypos? I have a hypo. You ready? In this hypo, everybody in the room is an attorney. Welcome to the bar. Didn't know passing it would be that easy. I would have done it a long time ago. All right. Everybody's an attorney. Got it? You know what your role is?
Yes.
You're an attorney.
Yeah.
You're going to represent a respondent father. I'm sorry, we call him respondent. That's the father in the suit. Okay, got it? You are an African American female. Hey, girl. Got it? Lawyer, African American, female, representing the dad. Yeah? The dad who's had his child removed is a member of a white supremacist group. Ain't no withdrawing. Can't retire. Can't get sick. Right? Trial lawyers, we try cases sick, tired, cold, hot. Right? All right, you ready? Can you do it? Really? I'm sorry. Really? Can you do it? Who said they can do it? You can do it? How can you do that? Come on up, come on up, come on up. How can you do it? What's your name?
Jessica.
Jessica can do it. Come on, Jessica, how can you do it?
I believe if you did it, you would be able to change their perception, give them a different way of thinking. If you stood up for them while they were in their weakest moment, you would be able to, change the way they thought about you and maybe change the way they think about themselves.
Jessica, thank you. Can we give Jessica a round? Jessica says she could do it because she thinks that if she provides him phenomenal representation, then that might change his mind about her femaleness, about her African Americanness. Can anybody else do it? Or is Jessica solo counsel? You can do it? How can you do it? What's your name? Danielle. All right, Danielle, you're going to have to talk louder than that. Danielle has a very soft voice. All right.
Well, it isn't my job to really change his mind. It's my job to represent him. So I would put my feelings to the side and focus on why this child was removed and what evidence was presented and defend him the best way that I can.
Can we give her a round of applause? Right? Knowing who you are, understanding the importance of culture, and being able to love who you are without necessarily disliking who you are not. Can you do it? Okay. That was a real scenario. That was one of my cases. If y'all want to know what happened, I'll tell you later. I was like, what did I do to piss this judge off? It's like, man, I thought she and I were on good terms. All right, exercise number 5. Here we go. Ready? You are an investigator. You are, let's make you white female. And you've received a referral alleging neglect, okay? The father's not in the picture. The mother's African American. She's from Liberia. And the call alleges that the mother goes to work daily and leaves the children home alone, unsupervised. The oldest child is 8. The youngest child is 3. White female investigator, African American mother from Liberia, 2 children, 8 and 3. Mom goes to work every day, leaves the children home alone. What do you do?
Find out about the culture of the Liberian people.
What's your name?
Glenda.
Glenda, stand up. Glenda says she can do it, and this is what she's going to do.
I would find out about the culture of the Liberian people first.
Thank you. Can we give her a round? Glenda? Anybody agree with Glenda? Be honest with yourself. Be honest with, this doesn't work unless you're willing to see yourself for who you are, guys. This doesn't work. Would all of you really inquire into the culture of this mother? Right? That's what would happen. What's your name?
Carol.
Miss Carol said it. No. I felt like she was channeling my mama. Right? And there's a real simple explanation to this. After the children had been removed, and after the children had been traumatized, and after the children had been separated in their placement in the state's care, there was an attorney appointed to represent the mom who asked, why was it okay to leave the kids at home alone? Well, in Liberia, the village raises the children. She's a refugee living in a community with other Liberian refugees. So in Liberia, if you leave to go get water, which might take you a day or two, you leave your children because you know that the village will take care of them. That made so much sense to me. I happened to be the lawyer who was representing the mom. So much sense. All right? Every day, these exercises are simple. Like I said, some of you probably do these things already. Some of you probably do it. Right? But these are things that will help us address implicit bias. Because many of us made a judgment about that mom. What was the judgment? What was the judgment? She's neglecting her children. Lack of supervision. What's the judgment? She's breaking the law. What's the judgment? She's a bad mom. What's the judgment? She doesn't deserve her kids. What's the judgment? She needs resources. What's the judgment? These children would do better not in her home. What's the judgment? It is better to separate these children than keep them together because mom is neglectful. What's the judgment? Come on, guys. Really? Really? Let's be honest about the system that we're in. What's the judgment? And now she's got to move mountains to show that she's worthy. What's the judgment? What's the judgment? She's different. What's the judgment? She's guilty. What's the judgment? She is different than me, and I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Maybe that's what y'all do in Liberia, but we don't do that here. And we know, we know what's best. I'm coming to you, yes. You got to stand up, though. What's your name?
Walter.
Walter.
My question is, you identified her as African American.
Oh, I did.
But I guess the first question is I had, does she identify herself as African? Because, and should be, I guess that'd be my first question, because my cultural perception would be different if I identify her as African versus African American.
Got it.
Because it forces me to think a different culture rather than American culture, simply by identifying her possibly as she identifies herself.
Got it. So what Walter is saying is I screwed up my hypothetical. Not a problem. Not a problem, because I got another one. Because that's how I roll. Okay. Okay. Exercise number 5. Because I prepared a 90-minute presentation and I don't really have 90 minutes, so I'm going to start moving a little bit faster. But I don't want to convey that these exercises are not important. I don't care where you are. When you wake up tomorrow morning, ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? Why do I do what I do? What do I have to offer? Ask yourself, who am I? And what do I truly believe about the people that I'm working with? What do I believe? And am I good with who I am? Am I good in my beliefs, or do I need some transformation? Ask yourself, can the people with whom I serve, because it doesn't matter what role we play, we are all in service, right? We are all in service. Ask yourselves, can I truly accept who I am and not be threatened or quick to make a judgment about something different than me, right? Quick exercises, no matter where you are. Just ask yourself. All right, here we go. Number 6. Cultural awareness. That was this one. Cultural awareness is actually knowing who you are. Anybody ever done cultural awareness training? Yeah? Yeah? Was it good? Was it successful? Was it helpful? Did it help you learn who you were? That's what it was supposed to do. How about cultural competence training? Anybody? I see one hand, because they're different. Yes? Yes? Was it different than cultural awareness training? Yes? Cultural competence is where you learn something about somebody else's culture, right? Just like Glenda. Miss Glenda said, let's find out what Liberian people do. Let's figure this thing out. And even though it's different, I can see how you saw that you thought it was okay. You're not neglectful at all, right? You're just doing what you've always done. You're doing what your community supported. You are acting normal for your culture. So cultural competence requires respect, even if it's different. Okay? You don't have to agree. It does not require you to agree. I am not, please. Okay, here's a disclaimer. Do not let your 8-year-old babysit your 3-year-old at home alone. Does that cover me? Okay, that's my legal disclaimer. All right. So we don't have to agree that these things are right, but we have to acknowledge they exist and respect them. Oh, this is a good one. Exercise number 7, empathy. I love this cartoon. Can we swap glasses? It might help me see your point of view. I thought that was adorable. Empathy. You feel it? You feel it? Any empathetic people? Can you really walk a mile in somebody else's shoes? I love you right here. She's like, no. How does it feel? How does it feel to be that Liberian mom in a new country, not knowing the norms, not knowing the procedures, but going home and finding your children removed with a note that you have to take to another community member to explain what has happened, and told that you have to go to court to get your children back? How does that feel? Is there anybody who would be so terrified that they wouldn't show? But if everybody's in court except for the mom and she doesn't show, what's her judgment? She doesn't care. Do you see how easily ethnocentrism, how easily we take our norms and assume that they're right? Right? We just do it. We just do it. We just do it naturally, without ever inquiring as to why somebody does what they do. Domestic violence. Y'all have a lot of domestic violence? Right. I know a lot of the removals that I worked on was the result of domestic violence because the victim of the violence was said not to be protective, right? So we have to remove the child because the victim is not protective, because the victim is being abused. Has that happened to anybody? Well, has anybody been involved in a case like that? Right. And so now the child is in care. What did we do to help this victim?
Took away the only good thing in her life.
What did we do to help explain to her what our concerns were? What did we do to mentor her? What did we do to guide her? When we asked ourselves that morning, why are we here and why are we uniquely qualified to do the thing that we do, is this what we thought about before we left the house? It's a lot of silence. It's a lot of silence. Compassion, feeling a deep concern or sorrow for someone and a strong desire to alleviate the suffering. Anybody feel that? I feel what you're going through. I can walk a mile in your shoes. I can see this from your perspective. I can understand how this must pain you. And I want to do something. I want to do something. So the things that I'm saying to you, in addition to the exercises, the things that I'm saying that are necessary to address implicit biases: cultural awareness, got to know who you are; cultural competence, You've got to understand the culture that is different from you. You've got to at least inquire. You don't have to agree. You don't have to adopt it, but you have to acknowledge it. Empathy. You've got to be able to see their reality from their perspective. Have you ever beat yourself upside the wall and said, why doesn't this victim of domestic violence just leave? I know that the most dangerous time for a victim of violence is when they try to leave. I know the statistics. I know that a protective order is only a piece of paper and it really won't do anything. I know these things logically and rationally. I know. But why don't you just leave? Right. And that question shows that we're working from a perspective of ethnocentrism. Because in our world, in our reality, what would we do? We'd leave. We think we would leave. We say we would leave. Right? And I don't get why she doesn't get that she just needs to leave. Okay? Cultural compassion is cultural awareness. It is cultural competence. It is empathy. It is compassionate, but it requires action. Action. Are you the one to stand up for injustice? Will you stand for it? Will you stand up against it? Will you allow your voice to be heard? Will you stand up against a judge who's persistent that their way is the right way? Do you challenge them? Somebody said no. Right? Are you secure enough in who you are? Are you brave enough? Are you crazy enough? That's a word. That's a word. Are you professionally suicidal? No, there it is. Right. Are you willing to hear that maybe your way is not the right way? Are you willing to receive that maybe the right way is somewhere in the middle? Is it not all for the children? Yes? Right? When we unnecessarily, and let me be real clear about unnecessary. There is nothing in what I am saying to you that infers, that suggests, or that even hints that a child should ever be left in a dangerous situation. Ever. I have stood toe-to-toe with many parents and said to them as a child's attorney, only through me will this child come home. Right. Fierce advocate of making sure children are safe. Right. But when we unnecessarily remove children, what do we do? What do we do to the child? We traumatize them. How do we traumatize them?
We take them from their secure environment.
We take them from their environment. We take them from their identity. We take them from their community, right? We take them from what they know, right? Right? We know anything about outcomes? Anything? Do we know anything about disproportionality? Anything? Do we know anything about the rate of removal of minority children as compared to the rate of those children in the general population? Anything? Maybe we need to do some research. Maybe that stuff hadn't been discussed. But that's not the purpose of this conversation. I don't know. Do we know anything about the increased dropout rates of teenagers in care? No? I was sure somebody had done that research. We know anything about the increased criminality of teenagers in care. And what I mean by that is the increased rate in which they enter the criminal justice system. Do we know anything about the increased rate of teen pregnancies for children in care? Anything? No? When we unnecessarily remove children based upon those implicit bias filters, what do we do to the community? What do we do to the culture? And this is not new, right? And that's why that's not the topic of this conversation. But this is not new because decades ago we had the Indian Child Welfare Act that addressed this very same thing, did we not? Did we not? This isn't new. The vanishing of a culture because we have lost these children in the system is not new. But the question becomes, are you culturally compassionate? Are you willing to rise against the injustice when you see it? Or do you see your role as giving children something better? Honest question. Is it better? And is that what guides you? Or is it safe? Because that should be what guides us. Let's get through this because I know that we're getting close to time. Exercise number 9, addressing implicit bias. What's the connectivity plan? What's the connectivity plan? What is the plan to keep the child connected to their culture, to the family that's been deemed safe, to the school that they've attended, to the church maybe they've attended, to the neighborhood that they know? What's the connectivity plan? Is there a connectivity plan? If there's not, who suggests the connectivity plan? Anybody. Who ensures that the connectivity plan happens? We're all supposed to, right? Exercise number 10. Evaluation. How do you evaluate your actions? Do you ever sit down and say, whew, I'm out of that hearing, or whew, I'm out of that family team meeting, or whew, I just finished that investigation, or whew, I just finished that visit. You don't have to say whew every time. But I feel like I'm just whew, like I have to exhale. But do you ever take a moment and say to yourselves, let me look at what I've done. Let me review. Let me see what I could have done differently. Do you ever evaluate it? Do you ever hold yourself accountable if you do evaluate your actions and decide, I should have done something different? Do you? Right. And there's some wise people in the room who are saying yes, right? But I wonder if that is because of the experience that they've had in life, right? Life has taught them I need to reflect and think about what I've done. Life has taught me that maybe I reacted too quickly. Life has taught me that maybe I was acting out of fear, or maybe I was acting out of anger. Life has taught me that I need to slow down and maybe revisit. But for those of us who are younger, especially those of us who are brand new, nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever told me to slow down. Nobody ever told me not to insert my values on the values of others. Right? How much? Am I good? Okay. One last story. This was supposed to be a hypothetical, but I'm going to just give you this one. I was appointed to represent an African American, she's African American, mother whose children had been removed. She was dually diagnosed. Y'all know what that is? Right. So she had a mental health disorder and she had a substance abuse diagnosis. Right? It was my first case as an attorney for a parent. My bar card, our bar cards are gold. My bar card was still sparkling. I think it still had the glue on the back from where they sent it to me in the mail. Brand new. I got the case, I went to her house, and I knocked on the door. She lived on an economically depressed side of town. That's okay, I grew up in South Dallas. I don't have a problem with that. So I knocked on the door. I didn't have on a suit, but I was professionally dressed. And I hear movement in the background, like somebody's rustling, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me knock again. And this is probably the expression on my face. I was really very excited about it. This is my first case. After the third knock, knocking like police now, Popo's at the door. She comes to the door clearly irritated. And she did that. She was like this and she did this. And I said, hello, my name is Stephanie Ledesma and I am here to help you get your children back. Oh my gosh, that's the most excitement I've gotten in the back of the room. And imagine what she did. She slammed the door in my face. That was my face when she slammed the door in my face. So time goes by, I eventually meet with her. I'm telling her what her services are and what the department is requiring for her children to be returned. She's not having it. I don't like her. She sure as hell doesn't like me. I file a motion to withdraw, because I learned that in law school. I had a great trial simulation teacher because they told me if you draft a motion, you're supposed to draft an order too. So I had an order. I understood how to serve, so I served everybody. And at that point in Texas, we stood around in what I called a semicircle of justice, right? So we had the assistant district attorney, we had the caseworker, we had the casework supervisor, we had the attorney for Dad, we had me, we had mom, we had the CASA volunteer, and then we had the attorney ad litem for the child, right? So semicircle of justice. I raised my motion to withdraw. Can't say much because I can't divulge confidential information. And I knew that it was all about to go badly when the assistant district attorney looked down. When people no longer make eye contact with you. Can I say what you said?
Your ass is grass.
Your ass is grass. And I'm like, what? Right? And so eventually the judge gives his summation of what's happening. And he said, Ms. Ledesma, I gather what I'm understanding is that you and your client are having difficulty working together. And I think I might even be able to put together that your client might not like you very much. And you're asking to get off of this case. And I said, yes, yes. And so I take a step forward with my order. Judge, that's not funny. Judge, that's not funny. I take a step forward with my order. Before I could put my foot down, he said, denied. And I was confused. I did everything right. I gave everybody notice. I prepared an order. I laid out my case, and the judge said no. And you know what he said to me? He looked at me and he said, Ms. Ledesma, if not you, then who is going to represent people who need representation? Now, I understand the profound moment that was. But nobody had had this conversation with me about culture or compassion or empathy. Don't forget, I was raised by an Army guy. I didn't understand what all of that stuff was. And when he asked me, if not you, then who, understanding now how profound that was, what I really thought in that second, I don't give a darn as long as it ain't me. Surely, clearly, I didn't say that, right? But I had made some assumptions, and I know that I'm out of time, but I had made some assumptions. I had made some assumptions about my client and about her values. I assumed because we shared gender, I assumed because we shared race, that we shared the same values. I assumed that my values were the right values. Go to school, get an education, get married, have children, take care of them. Don't use crack. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I assumed that my work ethic that I was trying to force on her was the right work ethic. You work 18 hours a day. That's what good people do. I assumed that because I felt if these people want me to tinkle in a cup, I'll tinkle in a cup all day long if that's what it's going to take to get my children back. And did not understand why she couldn't get there. Oh, what a disservice ignorance allows us to wreak on those who need us the most. In closing, we are a multidisciplinary team. Lawyers can't do it by ourselves. Social workers can't do it alone. Judges can't do it alone. Guardian ad litems can't do it alone. Foster parents can't do it alone. Parents can't do it alone. Children cannot do it alone. We need each other. We need each other's perspectives. We need each other's wisdom. We need each other's ideas. We need each other's energy. We are a multidisciplinary team comprised of multicultural people with multifaceted multifaceted belief systems, and every one of us are valued and needed. All that I ask is that we work harder at knowing who we are, being willing to learn something that maybe we don't like about ourselves, be strong enough to transform, and let our fingerprint on this earth and our legacy be one of positive, strong, empowering change, because that is what we are uniquely qualified to do.